got to monitor, especially FBA stock. As we get more into December, you're going to want to raise your minimums. If you start seeing a lot of people selling out, you may want to just hold it a little bit. If you're trying Ungates right now, I wish you the best of luck. It is very difficult.
I feel like not much really changes. I'm just more heavy monitoring because there's going to be a lot of opportunity to squeeze some extra margin. Just keep watch on some of your best sellers.
E-commerce is the greatest business opportunity of our generation. What is up, people? Welcome back to another episode of the Ecom Unlimited podcast. It's your boy Caj, here with my co-host Josh.
What's going on, everybody?
Now, I wanted to quickly shout out the sponsor of today's episode. That is SellerSnap. They are our repricer of choice that is based on AI and game theory, and they are hands down the most powerful repricer on the market. They avoid price tanking, help you stay in the buy box longer, as well as increase your profits. Pricing on Amazon is one of the most important levers you can pull that directly impacts your bottom line. So if you do not have a good repricer, it is actually losing you money. Now, if you want to try out SellerSnap, you can get a free 15-day trial as well as 10% off your first 3 months using the code Robinson at checkout or by clicking the link in the description. SellerSnap also recently came out with some new features called Data Hub that gives you competitor analysis as well as profitability analytics. And they also have some new introductory pricing offers. So guys, I highly, highly recommend that you try out SellerSnap if you're not already using them, and also book a free onboarding call with their team to learn how to best use the tool. With that, let's get back to the episode. And today we are going to have a conversation with two of our friends from Twitter, now X. I used to always want to call it Twitter in remembrance of the old days, but now I've actually started calling it X more because it's just not the same app anymore. It's totally different. But that's a side conversation. We've got Joey and Ryan. Welcome to the pod, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having us on. Excited to talk today.
Yeah, like we were talking off camera before we started recording. I feel like we've been interacting with each other's stuff for like probably the better part of a year now. So it's always cool to see guys who, you know, are doing their thing, crushing it online, constantly talking, and then getting them on the pod to have a conversation. So looking forward to this. So if you guys could maybe just start, I'll throw it to Joey first and then Ryan. Just give a quick intro, how long you've been selling, how you found out about e-commerce and Amazon.
Yeah, so I found out about Amazon, I would say probably closer to 2 years ago. I remember I started watching YouTube back in February of, what would that be, 24 or 23? I think 24. And I just came off of selling shoes for, I would say, the better part of 3 years. So I was already familiar with reselling. And then I had a couple friends doing Amazon. So they were like, yo, you should get into this because it's very adjacent to what you're doing. So I just decided, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. And yeah, it just kind of started from there. I feel like I've always been into like entrepreneurship and always trying business models. I went through like an agency, drop shipping, like all the generic stuff that you see online. And yeah, just this one happened to click and I just really stuck with it. So yeah, it's kind of my background.
Awesome. Yeah, Ryan.
Nice.
Yeah, so I have a pretty unique story about it. I interned actually at Walmart corporate down in Arkansas. This would be last summer. And there I learned about Walmart Marketplace. And that kind of introduced me to the topic that third-party sellers actually exist. I always thought that Bezos was himself just selling all the products on Amazon. So from there, learned that Amazon FBA existed. Ended up through the algorithm somehow stumbled into some content on TikTok and other social media. Scott Holmes was a guy who I kind of started off by watching before I even started, and kind of just learned of the business from there. Got off to a hot start, did like 10K in my first month and decided I don't want to do corporate. That's not for me. And went all in on, bet on myself, all in on business from there. So.
And when was that when you decided to take the jump?
Yeah, after my first month. So I was selling for about 5 weeks, did about 10 to 15K in revenue, and said, I feel like I've got something here, and turned down all my offers, all my interviews, and so let's run with it. I had a finance and accounting background.
Just sent it. And was that this year or last year?
Yeah, this was this past year, so about a year ago now.
So 1 year. That's sick. And for context, both of you guys are all in on online arbitrage right now, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Is that the first kind of model that you saw when you were doing your research and watching YouTube videos, or did you make a conscious decision between OA versus something else?
For me, I would say I saw RA, but I had already come from like, I'll be honest, like hustling a lot. Like when I used to flip shoes, it would always be used deals. So I would like drive to people, have to do all that stuff. Like it was just a real hustle. So I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to build real business from comfort of my home. So I did see RA as an option. I had a buddy who was doing that, but OA was just a lot more appealing for what I wanted.
Yeah, kind of similarly off that. I started off with a lot of RA, a lot of pickup orders, a lot of driving around, because that's what gives you the quickest feedback. RA to FBM is by far the
Yeah.
quickest. Highly recommend that to anyone watching who's getting started, or even if you're at a higher level right now in Q4, that's the best time to do it. But I realized early on that for one, that's not the life I want to live. I don't enjoy driving around, but I also realized it's really not that sustainable. It's very difficult to delegate. So I made the switch more to OA um, in a really delegated model that we'll jump into.
Very nice. Very cool. Now, kind of give us a little bit of an idea of what you guys are going to produce, like overall revenue this year.
I'm probably on pace. I want to do 1.5 million, but I think more realistically, I'm probably going to be around that 1.2, 1.25 million mark.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I'm expecting. So this is what I think my 13th or 14th month. I've done about 1.2 million in those first 13 or 14 months, and I'm expecting to do about 1.5 to 2 this year.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah. So we got some $1 million sellers right here. That's super exciting, guys. It's super cool.
Love it. Yeah,
Um,
especially hitting those numbers within a year is awesome.
oh yeah, that's
Thank you.
absolutely insane. Talk to us about your team a little bit. I'm going to start with you, Ryan. I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit. Talk to us about your team. Do you have any VAs? Is it only you? How do you make this business model work?
Yeah, so I operate through 3 VAs located in the Philippines. 2 are full time. One is part time, but he kind of works more full time. Very hardworking folks over there. Couldn't do it without them. And the way it's structured is one is a part time sourcer, so they're finding products. The second one is all hands on admin stuff. So anything I like to put it, anything that comes after we place the order, that individual handles all that, do a fantastic job. And then the third one has been with me for, I think, about 7 months now. He's a killer. He knows the entire business. He, in my sense, is like an early stage operator, to a point where he can source. He knows all admin. He knows literally A to Z, the entire business. And he's slowly morphing into this more of a managerial role to oversee the other 2 VAs. And then I kind of oversee all 3 of them, but more hands-on with that kind of operator.
Okay. Very cool. Joey?
Yeah, so I'm pretty similar in that aspect. I do more of like a department role. So I have 3 VAs as well. My first one joined with me back in November of last year, so she's coming up on a year now. She's great. I actually hired her as a sourcing VA. Which a point I want to make is if you're going to hire your first VA, I would recommend doing an admin, somebody who's going to save you time. Because I made that mistake early on of thinking that I need a sourcer when I couldn't source and I was just not that great at it. So we actually ended up transferring her to an admin, and she's like the head of operations in that department. We have another one who kind of works under her, who's more focused around making sure that the leakage after orders are placed is covered so everything arrives to our prep centers safely. And if we need to make replacement orders, she's doing those phone calls, all that type of stuff. I plan her to be able to take off more stuff off of my head of operations plate come 26, so that my head of ops can just basically focus on placing orders and looking after her. And then we also have a sourcer, which I hired about, I want to say 2 months ago. He's doing a pretty good job. This is actually my second sourcer. So it's been something that I've been fine tuning quite a lot over the course of this year, and just hope that by 26, he can kind of handle replens, repricing, sourcing, and that I just literally oversee everything on all 3 of them, and they can kind of collab together. So
Very nice. Very nice. Ryan, I want to bounce a question off you. You said, seems like your team really knows what they're doing in terms of you hired a lot of rock stars. Did they come to you already with previous experience, or did you have to really work with them to help them understand the business?
Yeah, so they came in completely fresh. They knew nothing. Honestly, I think that's the way to do it, right? If you bring in someone with experience, sure, you may save some time early on explaining what a keep it chart is, explaining what FBA stands for and FBMs, those types of little minute things. But you're gonna have to retrain the bad habits because they're probably coming from somewhere else. If they're out of a job, maybe they got fired, maybe the place they're working for could have went out of business. So all these types of things, you're going to have to rewire them so that they understand how to run your business. And frankly, I think I run my business wildly differently than how a lot of other OA sellers run the business. So to me, it just makes sense to just start with a clean canvas, train them up from the bottom and kind of go from there. One thing I will say on that is moving forward, I think I'm going to have people start in admin and kind of like develop this type of development program where they're able to start in admin and get acumen for across the whole business because that gets them exposure to all these different areas. Then they can move up and do more higher leverage rules like sourcing, repricing, assessing restocks, and go from there.
Very nice. Yeah, I kind of like that. It's just very different than, what a lot of people say, which would be like, you're going to want to start with like sourcing VA. That's like the most like time consuming, and it's kind of not an easier task to hand off, but it's just one of those really important tasks for the business. How many times a week are you like meeting with these VAs to get them up to date on all like the terms and how you want to run your business?
Yeah, so we do one-on-ones with everybody, and then bi-weekly we'll do an all hands meeting with all three. And Joe, you do something similar to that, right?
Yeah, we do. Really, like the admin team is so good that like I meet with them maybe once or twice a month, I'll be honest. The sourcer though, he's still so new and so fresh that I meet with him at least once or twice a week. And then with him specifically, we always do like Loom feedback. So he'll send me videos like almost I'd say 2 to 3 times a week, and I'm doing Loom videos back to that as well. So still very hands-on with him, but yeah.
Yeah, we
Talk to
use
it.
Loom super heavy.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Josh, just want to add on here. We use Loom extremely heavy, almost instead of having meetings, where
Yeah.
every lead that our sourcers find, we review just line by line and talk through our thoughts in a Loom video for every single product they find. Not only does that give them the feedback immediately, but it also helps them tailor and fine tune the leads specifically to your liking to cut off the fat. And then also saves us time with meetings.
Yeah, that makes super sense. And then with how kind of Loom presents itself, it's like there's a lot of those videos can almost be saved and then potentially be, presented to newer hires, correct
Yep.
too?
Yeah.
Okay. Very nice. Kind of helps kind of streamline that whole process.
Yep.
So guys, if you want to check out Loom, if you guys are just starting, we'll make sure to drop a link in the description just so you can find it a little bit easier. All right. Joey, give us
Yep.
kind of your thoughts on what makes your team kind of special and unique, and how you implemented that type of a mindset into your employees.
Yeah, so I think what makes them very special is that they're extremely hardworking. I also think it's that we all genuinely get along. I think there's like a huge issue when people come into hiring a VA that they think they're just going to kind of not be human in the sense of like they just don't treat them like that, which is clearly a problem. And I think a lot of VAs are used to that, where they're used to very unrealistic expectations, taking the blame for a lot of stuff that maybe the leader is not doing. So I think overall, what makes us all work so cohesively is that we're all on the same page, right? And we all understand where we want to go, and everyone knows how to play their role very well. And we can, collaborate off of that. So it's really just people building off each other and actually like wanting to show up to work. Incentivizing your employees is obviously a great way to do that as well, but I think money alone can't motivate everyone because at the end of the day, everyone wants and needs money. So you want people who actually you can tell are driven to show up, who want to be there. And then also, I would recommend too, like we're all like young guys here. I would recommend if you're hiring somebody, try and find somebody closer to your age. It helps bring together culture a lot. I know Ryan's very good at that. He has an insane culture on his side, and that really helps when you can relate to people just life experience wise. So I would say those are probably the biggest factors with my team.
Kind of really like that. Ryan, go into that culture for me. Well, how do you build a good culture with VAs?
Yeah, I think for one, like Joey said, if you gotta treat them like humans. I think a lot of people in this
Yeah.
industry, or maybe just ecom in general, they see the price tag, they see how much they're being paid, and they just assume that's how they're going to treat them, which is absolutely ridiculous. For one, our money, U.S. Money goes way further over there. They're paid very fairly, very handsomely, frankly. Um, and for one, that kind of sets the boundary that, we're not only am I a leader of the organization, but we're also all humans. We're all friends. We're all in this together. We're all striving for a common end goal, whatever that is. With that, setting goals is very important, and talking about how we're going to achieve them, how we all need to do our specific rules, what we need to do differently, and then also talking every quarter. I do what I call quarterly evaluations. Something I pulled from Walmart. I know all corporations probably do something similar, where you just kind of sit down and you run through how did the quarter go? How did your tasks? How did your responsibilities go? Is there anything we can do to improve? It keeps that kind of two-way street with them and me. They'll talk through things that I could have done better as a leader to put them in a better position. And then I'll talk through things that they could have done or could improve on the next quarter. And then, so that's kind of the business side. And then on the personal side, just talking to them about their weekends, right? What did they do over the weekend? Do they have any exciting plans coming up? I know my team's all like under 25, or like 25-year-old guys. We talk about girls, we talk about NBA, we talk about sports, we talk about pop culture, all that type of stuff. It's just fun. It makes us fun. They love it. They love coming to work, not coming to work, but clocking in, I guess, per se. It just keeps it lighthearted. We all have fun. We're all after a common mission.
Yeah, that's super cool. It's like I don't hear that a lot in terms of, you know, you know, especially online, like, building a culture with VAs. Because I know it can be hard. Do you guys have any issues with kind of like the language barrier or anything like that?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think most of my hires are pretty fluent in English. I would also say I look for that when I hire VAs as well. Not even necessarily from like it's more just from like a comprehension perspective, right? Like if we're gonna run through a bunch of modules, tasks, things of that nature, I'd want to make sure that somebody who is receiving that information doesn't mess up because they don't understand what I'm saying. So I don't typically run into that stuff.
Yeah, spot on. Joey nailed it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember when me and Kaj earlier in our days, we had like a couple VAs, and Kaj would tell me like after a meeting, like one VA would be like talking to the other VA, trying to explain like what just happened. And we were like, that's probably not the best going forward. So it's something that we had to clean up in terms of like helping them like with our communication, making sure like we're clear in all of our tasks and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of
Yeah,
funny.
I
But
think one thing though too that kind of reminds me of is my newest hire. He understands, he's good with English, but he learns better in their native Tagalog. So a change I made was having our operator, our oldest hire, train him more hands-on with sourcing rather than me, because he was able to understand and ask him the questions in their native language and understand and kind of just go through it better that way. So just a pivot we had to make.
super cool. Yeah. I mean, that's like very unique, and allowing that delegation is pretty big for you too, freeing up time and all that kind of stuff. Now, building multi kind of $1 million businesses, this business model does take a amount of capital that's required to, start buying inventory. How did you guys go about, trying to finance this business? And what are maybe some roadblocks you hit along the way?
Yeah, Joey,
Yeah.
you should
You
cover
want me to
this.
go?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So I'm a little bit of an interesting case. So I'll keep it short for how I got my original um pool of money to start. So that just came simply from reselling and like having odd jobs when I was like 16, 17, 18, right? So I was able to save right around 15 to 20 grand. And honestly, if you're a beginner, like you don't need, I would even say more than like five to 10 max, because it took me a good 3 to 6 months before I could actually even spend that month over month, that entire pool. So that time was really spent learning. And then past that, when it came to actually acquiring capital, I was running like 80, 90K months all off of that 20K bootstrap, because my churn rate was just so quick on inventory. So I never really ran into bottlenecks, and I still really don't, I feel like, with capital. But if you're looking to acquire more capital, there's definitely ways to do so. I would recommend 0% APR cards. That's obviously probably the least risky, that you can also get a good amount on. That is personally how I've gotten them. I've looked into loans and loan applications from Amazon before, but having to pay interest is obviously not great. And something that I was told, which I heavily agree with, is if you don't know where you're going to spend your money on, don't start taking loans, because it's just money that's going to eat at your bottom line. Which, as you grow, you really start to pay attention to your bottom line a lot more. Me and Ryan have been talking about that all throughout this month. So, yeah, that's just pretty much how I got started. You really don't need much. You just more so need to know how to actually source, get good at what you're doing, and then from there, once you have that craft mastered, that's when it's time to go open those cards and play around with that a little bit more.
Very nice.
So were you doing a lot of FBM then to have such a quick churn rate and not need to worry about, all those cash flow issues and because getting to 80K in revenue off of like a 20K nest egg, if you will, you're flipping that at least twice in a 30-day period of time.
Yeah, so I was doing FBM, but honestly, I've stuck with FBA a majority of like the business at this point. Um, I think really for me it was that for one, I didn't outsource to a prep center until I would say December of last year. So right
Wow.
when things were coming into my house, I was getting them out like ASAP. So I wasn't really wasting any time, just really trying to get inventory sold through. And I also wasn't buying very deep. So I went super wide, which really helped not get stuck with things, which just really allowed me to flip more and more and more stuff. So yeah, it was a mix of both, right? But I think most importantly, I was just able to turn stuff over because I was not letting things sit. I wasn't buying super deep and ultimately just going really wide. During December, though, Q4 of last year, I was doing pretty much all FBM. And that was what really allowed me to do like, I think it was 80 to 85 last year, um, purely off of that 20K. So.
Very nice. Very nice. Ryan, how did you start with the whole financing your journey here?
Yeah, similar scenario to Joey. Had a lot of money saved up from odds and ends, random high school jobs. The internships helped out as well. And I was actually running a different type of business, type of hustle early on that I was using to fund this business. I won't go too deep into that one. Kind of a long story there. And then just had a plum and a dream. The Amex plum really holds the weight on my monthly spend. It's fantastic. You have the longer pay periods. Sure, you may give up some cash flow or some cash back, but it's not much in comparison to the amount you're able to spend on it in the 60-day pay periods are huge as well. So
Yeah, talk to us. I want you to kind of explain for maybe the newer viewer why the Amex Plum in this type of business model is so important for cash flow.
yeah, so when I say 60-day pay periods, right, your typical credit card is going to have about 30 days. So you'll have 30 days till the credit or to 30 days to pay it back once the cycle ends. Whereas the Amex Plum, you'll have 60 days. So comparing it to Amazon, you'll typically buy, I don't know, 30 to 45 days worth of stock. And it's going to take you probably about 2 weeks, maybe we'll say, from the time you buy it to the time that it gets sent out to Amazon, or maybe you start selling at FBM. So if you kind of do the math, right, 4 weeks plus those 2 weeks, now you're at 6 weeks, and then if you need to start selling through, so kind of bridges the gap there, where 30 days kind of makes it a little bit tough. But when you add the extra 30 days, it really, really helps the cash flow, and it's a charge card too, meaning you don't have a strict limit, right? It doesn't just say you can only spend 20K. For me, I've gotten up to about 90K, so definitely super helpful there. And again, you are giving up some cash back, but having those extra pay periods are totally worth it in my mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. A peace of mind at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
so nice to have that extra time. That allows for, to
Big
sleep a
Plum
little.
fan.
Yeah, we were
Yep.
always very big Plum fans. Allows you to sleep a little bit better at night sometimes. Kaja, you got any questions?
No, not so much on the financing side. Where I wanted to go next was I'm curious what each of you has had for your best month in terms of revenue and profit. And then also curious what you're projecting to do in December of this year, 2025?
Yeah, you want
I
to go
can,
first, Ryan?
yeah, for sure. So I think my
Yeah.
best month ever was around 200 or so, maybe give or take 10,000. And I think we netted about 24,000 on that, something around there, which was solid. And then heading into December, I'm expecting to do somewhere around 350 to 400. Maybe we'll push to 500. We'll see on that.
Let's go.
See how
Let's
it
go.
goes. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very nice. Mine was so actually it was in September. I believe I did 175. That one was about like 14, 15, but my most profit month ever was last December. Off of that 80K, I made like 20, I think it was 20K. So I
Dang.
did like a 25% margin last year. It was crazy.
And
It's
Um,
self prep.
was there RA in there?
yeah.
Was it FBM? Was it all
Oh
FBA
yeah.
OA?
Yeah, it was like I was hitting stores with tax exempt that you never thought would be able to take tax exempt, and I was
Yeah.
going cleaning up all around, just really trying to like squeeze the juice out of everything during that
Yeah.
time. And yeah, it was all self prep. Again, I only had one assistant at that time, so very low overhead, and just a lot of hustle. So, but yeah, that was my most. That was pretty crazy. And then for this year in December. I think we're probably going to do around, I want to say like 2 to 250. We've had some problems with FBM currently, just trying to get not necessarily our templates, but we have some delivery dates that aren't where they should be. So right now we're trying to clean that up for November, and then hopefully in December that'll be fixed. So then we can just go all FBM and hopefully exceed those numbers. I want to do more than that, but it really just depends on if this gets sorted out by then.
Sure, sure. So, have you guys kind of already loaded up on most of your FBA inventory that you're planning on getting sold through, or are you still aggressively sending stuff in, expecting it to sell in December?
Yeah, I'm still, I think I cut off for the most part. I just stopped buying. So it's November 13th as of right now. And we're pretty much flipping the switch to everything we buy now is going to go FBM.
Solid.
Yeah, I'm trying to do something similar as well. If FBM doesn't get solved, then I'll just send FBA because I did a lot of that last year. It didn't have too much of an impact. I mean, obviously the check-ins are slower, but as long as you're, buying good products, then you should be okay and things will sell in January. So that's kind of my mindset on it. But yeah, if I can, I will FBM because the switch has already seemed to kind of flip on that.
Sure. And do
Do you?
you do same day shipping too when you FBM, or 0 day handling time? I mean,
Yeah, so we run through Prep Center, so it's kind of up to them.
okay,
Um,
gotcha.
the one I utilize runs 0 day. Now you got to be really careful with your OTDR heading into the peak season.
Oh yeah,
Because sometimes, they can do 0 day, but it might not get checked in until the next morning, something like
right.
that. So you got to be careful. But yeah, 0 day is helpful. But honestly, you'll be fine with 1 day in the peak of Q4. Like I
Yeah,
think Joey, you run 1 day, right?
Yeah, I actually went from 0 day a couple weeks ago to 1 day, and there's hardly any difference.
yeah,
And it's honestly just a lot safer for your metrics. So
yeah. I think there was only select times when we went to 0 day. Like if we had a big order that we knew we wanted to move extremely quickly, like we'd go to 0 day for maybe a day or two and then go back to 1 day.
yeah.
Yep.
Do you guys only sell on Amazon, or have you guys dabbled in with Walmart at all?
Only Amazon for me.
Yep. Same.
Gotcha. Interesting. Are you guys thinking about exploring that option, or that just hasn't even crossed your mind quite yet?
No, I think
No, I
Amazon's the
don't.
place to be. This is
Yeah,
where the viewers are. You have all the
yeah,
software, all the data around it. I'm not very bullish on Walmart.
yeah. Me either. I'm more bullish on things that I feel like I can build long-lasting businesses and not like side hustles or anything. So that's just my take.
Have you guys thought about or explored the opportunity of turning any of your OA buys into a potential wholesale or anything like that? Or are you just guys strictly OA right now?
Yeah, I think for the most part, strictly OA. That's what our systems are built out for. That's what our team knows. We don't have the infrastructure. I'll speak for myself. I don't have the infrastructure built out to accommodate, calling suppliers, those types of things. But that is something we're going to explore coming into early Q1. See if we can turn some of those OA leads. You guys talk about it all the time,
Yeah,
turning those OA leads into a wholesale deal, and then kind of get your feet wet with wholesale. And then maybe pivot or add in another kind of business division of wholesale, right? How can we push cold calls, cold email to to land some of those brand direct deals or other wholesale opportunities.
Nice.
Yep, I'm in the same boat.
Okay.
Pretty much the exact same thing that he said. We don't, it's not something that we want to focus on right now just because of the time of the year. And I would rather have majority of the OA business completely outsourced so that the team can do it all themselves. And then I can go out there, build off of the existing catalog, learn the fundamentals, and then bring those guys up with me and teach them as well. So
Yeah.
Very nice. Do you guys have any like repricing strategies coming into Q4 as we start to like inch towards like, early potentially December?
Yeah, I think you got to monitor, especially FBA and FBA stock. As we get more into December, you're going to want to raise your minimums. If you start seeing a lot of people selling out, you may want to just hold it a little bit. Obviously, if you're capital constrained, then let it go. But try and hold off for that higher margin when it makes sense to. And it's very, very difficult to kind of time it. So whenever it feels right for you, and you get a number you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's kind of my thought there.
Gotcha.
yeah, I feel like not much really changes. Just more heavy monitoring, to be honest. Like if you're selling a lot of FBM product, and you only reprice maybe twice a week, I'd maybe bump that up to 3 times a week or check in on your best sellers, right? Because there's going to be a lot of opportunity to squeeze some extra margin. And like Ryan said with the FBA stuff, definitely take the prime bump, because it's going to be there. So yeah, but nothing really changes too much in terms of strategy. I feel like just keep watch on some of your best sellers.
Nice. Very, very nice.
I'm curious what your guys' experience has been with ungating, because obviously you guys have been in this space now for like between a year or 2 years, which is a decent amount of experience. But I feel like, I guess when we got out of the OA space kind of coincides when you guys got into it. So obviously like we're on X and whatever, and we're hearing what's going on. But for like a new person getting into OA, what's like a realistic expectation with ungating? And what did you guys have to go through to find brands that are profitable? Because some of like the more classic OA brands that people really love to run up a bag, and by people I mean us in 2022, 2023, like those aren't really as feasible today as they were then. So I'm just kind of curious to hear your guys' take on that.
You want to go, Ryan?
Yeah, I can take this one. So I think it's
Sure.
a lot has changed, right? A lot has changed, and it's not only a theme of Amazon that you need to be adaptive and really be resilient. Frankly, a lot has changed. If you're trying ungates right now, I wish you the best of luck. It is very difficult. Anything with a dollar sign in front of the brand when you go to ungate it, I personally wouldn't advise trying. You could try it. Don't let me discourage you, but I would hold off on those until Q1. Me personally, we don't do any of those. Anything without the dollar sign, though, we do get auto ungated. Now, sure, that could be due to our account health or our account history, our sales, all those types of things play into it. So those I would recommend you could try out. But the ones with the dollar signs, your big name brands, if they're not already hard gated, which a lot of them probably are, Joey and I can hardly sell anything that you guys, Caj and Josh, were talking about that you guys probably were printing money off of. We can't sell. And also make sure it makes sense. If you're going to spend money on the ungate, make sure that it's going to yield a strong return, right? If you're only getting 2 products off that, it's probably not worth your time. The stress, the headache, the denials, the rejections, those can add up. Those can be demoralizing. So make sure it's worth it. Make sure you've got 10 plus ASINs you can pull from that brand.
Yeah, and like building off of what he said too, like I wouldn't really submit an ungate if they're asking for 100+ units, because you're gonna have to spend a sizable amount of inventory money that's gonna get tied up that you can't go spend on other products. And then not only that, you're probably gonna have to submit 20, 30, 40 times. So it gets to be kind of a headache. We do a very similar thing to where I'm not bothering submitting ungates. I have considered sometimes doing like 10-unit ones just because it's such a small amount of capital. But even still, there's no guarantee that it gives you better odds. It's just you have to, I guess, risk less, right? And have money tied up in less things. But when I started back in 24, like around March time, I know that it was very possible to get bigger brands ungated. I actually have some that I sell myself. But nowadays, it definitely seems like if you're starting, getting auto approved on brands is a lot harder. It looks like Amazon takes much more consideration into your account history. So I think if you can just build up some sales, you will have more auto ungates approved for you. But in terms of actually submitting, 100-unit ungates, I wouldn't recommend it either.
Yeah, but I think adding on to that for some final thoughts, the best thing I'd recommend right now if you're struggling with ungates is just double down on what you can sell. Figure out if there's other variations of the products. Figure out if there's also all different listings. Consider lower velocity. Consider adjusting your parameters that you would normally source off of to be able to add on and just yield more sales from that brand. Because like Joey alluded to, the more rev you get, the better your account history is, the more ungates you're going to get. So just bear with it, go through the process. It'll get better. In Q1, hopefully they kind of open up the floodgates a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And then, so with that, like, and you don't need to dox the websites you source from, but like, are
Yeah.
you guys looking at the main big box retailers and just have some different strategies to find products that other people aren't gonna also sell, and then the price is gonna tank? Or is your strategy more finding low-key websites and low-key stores? And Joey, I know you mentioned before, like, you like to go wide versus really deep on an ASIN. Like, what is your sourcing strategy around that?
Yeah, so we've built processes for how we source, because I know back in the day, you could definitely run it up crazy off of one brand, right? And like one retailer. And I just feel like that doesn't exist at scale anymore for maybe for the older guys who have been in it for a while, possibly. But for people who started around when me and Ryan did, we kind of had to learn just through a lot of storefront stalking, a lot of finding what's out there. And yeah, anything that makes money, I'm going for. So I don't really discriminate. Like, I'm willing to try out any suppliers, any brands, anything that fits a criteria that I'm looking to source for. I'll go for it as long as it turns a profit, and as long as I think it'll still be profitable, within a month from now, so that it doesn't tank.
Yeah, I think I would also personally recommend more of a wider approach. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean you can't go deep on an ASIN, but figure out the number you're okay with losing if that ASIN goes down. Amazon is a very turbulent, volatile market, especially nowadays. We've got a ton of G10 issues that experience just in the dark. I know I had 40 to 50K of inventory, woke up one day and it's stranded, couldn't do anything about it, had to remove it all. So that's been tough to deal with and build back from. But again, things like that are going to happen. You've got to stay resilient. And I think there's things I could have and should have done to kind of mitigate the risk there of being overexposed on one single listing. Or think about last year around this time when we had the regates, a lot of people were way wildly overexposed on one single brand. So if that brand goes down, is your business cooked? If the answers to that is yes, I would rethink how you operate. That's just my take.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That also ties back into the capital thing that I was talking about earlier, where you should really figure out how to actually source and play the game before you start leveraging credit from banks and other people. Because the last thing you want is something that's really out of your control to go wrong, and then you're over leveraged and you can't pay it back. And then you lose your
Yep.
business as well.
That's the
So,
worst fear. Yeah.
Well said.
yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember Jeff Senzit put out a tweet about, I think he said how one single brand doesn't account for more than 5% of his revenue. And
Yeah.
again, massive OA seller. I'm sure you guys know him.
Yeah.
But for
Yeah.
the viewers, like, I think he moved like over 100,000 units last month or something like that. And he
Crazy.
just goes really, really wide. And so, yeah, one brand gets gated and you're fine. Are you guys beating IP complaints too with the retail receipts that you have, or are you just avoiding IP complaints based on the kinds of brands that you pick?
I think it's kind of hit or miss. I've received a few in the past couple months. Some I'll beat, some I won't beat. Some I'll beat with the same invoice. Like if it's both are purchased from the same retailer, I'll somehow beat one IP but not the other. Makes no sense. It's almost like an ungating situation where you kind of have to submit it a million times and hope they hope they let one through. So it's in my experience, it's just hit or miss.
Yeah, I would agree with that. We actually just got one, I think it was yesterday, but it wasn't even from the brand. It was like because there's some trademark. So it can get really random as well. We try to avoid them as much as possible. But yeah, sometimes the inevitable will happen. What I could recommend to help beat it is definitely compile all of your documents into one PDF. And then also start highlighting areas where they want you to highlight. So if they're looking for quantity or the name, start highlighting all that stuff. It does seem to give a little bit better of approval. IP complaints and like inauthentics especially haven't been too big of an issue for me. I typically tend to beat them within a few tries, but there are the ones that have to stay on your account until 6 months, and then you gotta get rid of them. So
Yeah, and stack your cards in your favor too. If you're buying
yeah,
from these rando sketch websites, you're probably not going to get approved, right? So a good rule of thumb that we use is if a cashback extension works on that website, it's probably legit. So if Rakuten, Top Cashback, one of those are pulling up and saying, oh, you'll get X% or you can use these coupons, it's probably legit to buy from. And then there's also many other ways to check as well.
Oh, I love that tip. That is a really good one.
What's up, guys? Before we continue with the episode for today, we are bringing you the raffle for our $250 giveaway from the 100th episode. Sincerely appreciate everyone who commented, whether it was on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I don't think we got any comments on Apple. If we missed you, I apologize. But we have the people who commented, the selection from that, and we are now going to spin the wheel to see who are the 4 winners, and then from there we will do a second round of spinning the wheel to see who gets first, second, third, and fourth. So first place will be $100, second place $75, third place $50, fourth place $25, and then once we figure that out, we will reach out to you guys. So Josh, I'll hand it over to you.
All right, here we go. We got a lot of good names on the board. Matt FBA, we got Honey Moss, we got Cloudy Ray. We appreciate you guys commenting, and good luck. All right, Caj, first person, Tommy Boy made it.
Tommy is the first winner. All right.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Tommy's first winner. I know it says you've been eliminated technically on the screen, but technically you haven't. Chicken Con, number 2. Taco Tuesday ended up making it in. And our last winner is going to be, well, we already did Tommy Boy.
That's
So
funny.
you can't win again. Honey Moss.
Okay, so we've
right.
got our 4. So Josh, you can go ahead and eliminate our unfortunate losers.
So we got Honey Moss, Taco Tuesday, Tommy Boy, and who is
And Chicken Con.
Chicken. All right, here we go. So for 4th place, $25, we have Tommy Boy.
All right, now you got to take him off the board.
Oh yeah, thanks. All right, 3rd place, we have Honey Moss.
For $50.
$50.
Down
2nd
to
place, Chicken Con in 2nd place.
Which,
Therefore, Taco Tuesday. How crazy is that? What a great username.
well, hopefully you can get a lot of tacos.
Is the sole winner with the $100 gift card. So, guys, be looking at your DMs because we will be hitting you up regarding these gift cards. We hope you appreciate the episode.
Now, back to the episode.
All right, Joey, I'll go with you and then we'll go to Ryan. Joey, for our listeners who aren't on video, where can they go find you to learn more about online arbitrage and your journey?
Yeah, so literally everywhere. I'm most active and probably going to give the most value on Twitter. So that's at Joey Prady. And then YouTube, same thing. Instagram, same thing. So all the same across all my social medias.
Awesome. And Ryan?
Yep, similarly, cooking cash flow on basically everything. More active on Twitter than anything else, but we'll get Instagram and eventually TikTok here coming up, rolling as well. So shoot us a follow. You will not regret it, especially if you're in the OA space.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Guys, both will be linked in the description, so go ahead and check them out. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any topics you want us to discuss in the future. And if you're on YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you're on Spotify, follow the podcast so you can stay updated on all of our new content. And we will see you on the next one.